Ok, perfecto.
Bueno, es para mí un honor abrir esta 50ª edición del Winter Meeting. La primera actividad del día es una sesión histórica y por razones históricas voy a cambiar al inglés. So it is a pleasure for me to open the 50th edition of this winter meeting on statistical physics. The first session is a historical session that will be in charge of Fernando del Rio and Luis Mier y Terán. And well, it is my pleasure to give the turn to Luis Mier y Terán. Luis, I think you can now share your screen. Thank you very much for having accepted to organize this, Fernando and Luis.
Thank you, Eugenia. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to this talk to commemorate the 50th anniversary of the Winter Meeting on Statistical Physics. We wish to recall in this talk the time when the Winter Meeting were started. We want to address some questions that could probably be in the minds of many of you. Let's start this conversation with a question to Fernando. Fernando, why did this Winter Meeting Statistical Physics start and why?
Well, before starting, I want to thank the organizer for inviting me to this historical session. I was talking with you, Luis. We were chatting yesterday that probably when there are many of those who hear us today that were not alive 50 years ago, we hope there are many youngsters among us, and also that probably there would be somebody whose mother wasn't born 50 years ago. So it's a long time, and it's a pleasure to be alive and to be welcomed by you. Okay, I want to start 50 years ago, in 1971. A few people of us were working on statistical physics in Mexico. Most of us were working at the Instituto Mexicano del Petróleo. Leopoldo García Colín, who was head of the division where we worked, had already good contacts, mostly in the US. He was leader of a group of young physicists and students in the field. The other group was led by me. Thanks to Leopoldo's connections, the Institute had invited several leading physicists to visit during the early January of next year, 1972. So we saw the opportunity to have a small symposium on the subject. We realized that it was a good occasion to hold the meeting at Huastepec, a resort where a few physics conferences had already been held. We set the meeting for a day that suited our guests, who included Joe Lebovitz, Melvin Green, and Anneke and Jan Sengers. We had a wonderful time with excellent lectures from our invited speakers and also from some of us who work on the subject here in Mexico. More than half the participants were students. This happened in January 1972. Well, there was no official name used, and there was no meeting photograph taken. It was later in the year that we realized, prompted by the successful experience of this meeting, that it was worthwhile to organize a second. And here I have a photograph of that second meeting. So I'm going to share the screen so that you can see the meeting. The photograph is in two parts because it was wide. Here you can probably see the pointer. It's not a pointer, but you can see Elisa Brown is here. This is Robert Alexander, this is Joel Lebowitz, this is Leopoldo, This is Robert Swansea. Who else was here? Here this one with a folder here or whatever is Marcelo Lozada, who is with us. This is Esteban Martina, who joined us from in the first meetings. This is Ramon Peralta. And I'm going not to mention all of them, but I'm going to mention a few so that you can see it. I don't see the whole photograph because I have the photographs. Yes, I think that's almost all of them. So I will show this one and see the other piece of the meeting. Here, I am on the extreme left of the photograph that is right to us. And this is Sigurd Larsen. Sigurd Larsen was a friend of us, and he had come from Temple University, work at IMP in a sabbatical, and he was his enthusiasm was very important to start a series of meetings. No, he was very enthusiastic and very supportive. So, well, this is the second meeting in 1973, because the first was in 1972. Okay, so now, I don't know, Luis, would you like to comment something on the purposes that moved the winter meeting and why they were good for the Mexican physics community?
Yes, Fernando, thank you very much. Well, first, to make the statistical physics community grow, that was one of the important things for us to start doing, because we were very few dedicated to work in the field of statistical physics at that moment. The second purpose we had was to create mechanisms to enhance the communication among the Mexican scientists who worked on statistical physics at the moment. One of these mechanisms was to provide a forum for these Mexican scientists for presenting their works to national and international experts in that field. That means to an international audience. And the third purpose, at the same time, it was very important for us to hear in a direct way the voices of international experts about their most recent research works. Since the beginning in 1972, the winter meetings on statistical physics provided an extraordinary periodical mechanism for those purposes. This moment, I want to give the credit to the vision of Fernando del Rio in particular, because at that time, he could see all of these features, all of these advantages the winter meetings would have. I was, at that moment, his student only. I was a chicharo, I would say, like, in those times we named a person who helped the director, and I was a student of Fernando. And I must say that I just helped him to make the details working in this organization, but he was the person important in terms of the possibility of organizing and who had clear the ideas, the general ideas. And let me ask a third question to Fernando. Why did we choose to organize the meetings in winter? The winter was a special period, and it remains organizing in winter, in January of every year.
Yes. As I said, the first meeting didn't have a number. It was not meeting one. It didn't even have a name. It was not a winter meeting. It happened in the winter. But as I said, it was just a coincidence when we had a few speakers coming from abroad, very good speakers, as I show you. And what happened is that for the second meeting, we realized that winter in Mexico, and particularly winter in the Valley of Cuernavaca, was very attractive for people working in the US, in Canada, in Northern Europe, or places like that. No, the very nice weather there was during the winter break, before they started the classes again, was a nice opportunity. At that time, we didn't have to compete with many many meetings that traditionally have been had during the summer. So we chose the winter to do it because of climatic weather reasons, and chose that word for the name. Probably Sigurd Larsen was influential in that. But this, it was a very circumstantial part, but I think that a very circumstantial piece of argument, but it was important for the early success of the meeting. That, and of course the high level of the lectures, and the other thing that was concerned from the first meeting is something that Eugenia was saying just before we started this official session. I'm sorry, and it is that these were not short talks, one after the other, and parallel sessions, something like that. There was a leisure meeting with long talks so that people could express themselves, so that the students could learn from the speakers, and that also helped a lot. And I would like to then to show you. I think I'm still sharing. Well, here is the photo of the third meeting. This was in '74. Here we see Professor de Groot, Eddie Cohen, Bob Wilson, who came to many meetings, was a good friend of us. Leopoldo is here also, Tere de la Selva, Lolita Ayala. Here is, let me see who else is here. Here is Marcelo again, and Esteban Martina, and Luis Mier y Terán is here. And this is Jorge Barojas. And I cannot see, I have to move.
Eliezer Brown is also there.
Eliezer Brown is around here too. Where is Eliezer Brown? Well, and Ricardo Sumura is there. Well, there are several. And then, and the other part of the picture, there is Hugh DeWitt, who was my PhD advisor. And there is Ben Whedon. This is Ian McClure, who was a collaborator of us and unfortunately died a few months ago. And I am myself there. And this is Leiva. And well, this is Eduardo Piña. This is Salvador Malo. This is Pablo Longi, I think. Okay, you more or less get an idea of the. We were not that many. Probably we were 40 in any of these meetings. Now, do you recall, Luis, some of those who came from abroad to speak at the winter meeting?
Well, I very well remember the first winter meeting in which I was present. That was in 1973. And it was Robert Swansea, who was shown in one of the photographs. He was an speaker, important speaker of that session, and I was very impressed by him. Later on, I was also very impressed with the works of several very well-known foreign scientists, among them Ben Widom. You showed him in one of the photographs, Joel Lebowitz also, and Ken Wilson, who was later in 1883, was a Nobel laureate in physics. I remember particular the session, we one afternoon session. After that, we meet with him and we talked several hours, I believe, about a project we had at the moment. And he was at the point of even to try to do some integrals we had difficulties doing. And other prominent speakers of the first years were Anneke and Jan Sengers. I was a nice surprise for me to see Jan Sengers again in Puebla 2 years ago. Bernie Alder, Douglas Henderson, who later came to our university for at least 1 year, De Groot, and Peter Masur. De Groot was shown in one of the photographs too. John Deutsch, who later was a very important person in the United States government. Irwin Oppenheim, George Stell, who came to several meetings, Donald Macquarie, Cohen, who was shown in one of the photographs, William Hoover was also here, William Smith later, among others. It's a long list, so it's difficult to remember everybody and to mention everybody there. But there were also Mexican speakers of those first years. You mentioned several. Please tell me who remember we were there, Fernando.
Well, I remember well, many of us, of course, Leopoldo spoke there, Eliezer Brown, Eduardo Piña, but also Carmen Barea, Estela Blaisten, Jorge Barojas, Alberto Robledo, Rosa María Velasco, Gustavo Chapela, Esteban Martina, Marcelo Lozada, Magdaleno Medina, and many others. It became a custom to invite all those. I mean, the meeting was also instrumental in having many of the young students who were just finishing their first degree, their first university degree, to go abroad to do their PhDs with people who had come to the meetings. And so that was part of the instrumentation that was, well, spontaneously created, or that helped to make the statistical physics community strong in Mexico. Now there are dozens or more than 100 people doing statistical physics in Mexico. And what happened was that all of those who came with a PhD were invited to give their first, which was probably their first international talk, or the first important talk, to give them in the winter meeting. And many of them were very successful, and many of them have groups here in Mexico working. Some of them have moved to other fields. And so, I mean, in that sense, it was very productive. But before giving you the microphone, I want to show you other pictures. This is 1975. This is the next meeting. But again, no. Here is Alfonso Mondragón, who already died. There's Eduardo Piña, myself, Leopoldo, and this is Sigurd Larsen. This is Jean-Pierre Montfort, who visited from France. And who else is here? Jesús Robles,
Jesús Robles.
and well, you can identify many people there. And if I go to the other half of this picture, no, here we have, I think,
Francisco Ramos is
so
there.
this picture, Francisco Ramos was in this picture, yes. Also, Tom Leland from Texas was here. This is Mrs. Leland. And we hear Francisco Ramos is here. This is Pablo Longe. This is Marcelo Lozada again. And okay, no, and this is Elliot. And
Elliot lived, yes.
Elliot lived, yes. And okay, well, that's what I wanted to show. Now, could you tell us why Huastepec? Because at the beginning, the meeting was called the Huastepec meeting also. Was known as the Huastepec meeting, not only as the winter meeting. Could you tell us something about that?
Yes,
Luis?
I remember very well the old Huastepec Convention Center and resorts, which had an enormous advantages for our purpose at that time. These advantages were very difficult to obtain together in a single place. And it was an ample conference room located at the tower, the very well-known tower. It appeared in one of the photographs. Very wide and pleasant spaces, a nice hotel and bungalows, swimming pools, and big enough spaces for walking. We had a soccer field. I remember to be playing soccer several times. But another important fact, and it was very important, was its low cost. It was cheap enough to be affordable by most of us. However, the restaurant always was its weakest point. The Huastepec Convention Center was also very good for concentrating people in the site. Not only very far from Mexico, it was not very far from Mexico, and at the same time, far enough to remain inside during the 3 days of the meeting, of each one of the meetings. It was really a very pleasant place to concentrate a couple of days, 3 days, to do physics with other people, to discuss about physics, statistical physics with people. And let me tell now, which was the reason, Fernando, which was the reason of this continuity over 50 years? Which factors do you think contributed to that?
Well, I think that the main reason was that the shape the meetings took were very, very well accepted by the community. It was a small community at the beginning, but the community accepted very well and was very much happy with the meetings. So it was not difficult to find who wanted to organize the next meetings. The first meetings, I don't know, the first 10 meetings or 12 probably were organized by more or less the same people. But after that, every year, new people would join the organizing committees. And so the organizing committees were renovated. We also kept people from the previous committees, from the previous organizing committees so that the so to say the spirit of the meetings was carried on, and so this helped a lot. And then I think that has been the same. I mean, because the people who organized this meeting, as I was saying, well, probably some of them were even born 50 years ago. No? So it was a success. But now the internal success, what was the reason for that? Well, as I mentioned, the scheme of the meeting was very good. It was, we didn't copy it, but it was a little bit like the Gordon conferences with long talks and time to chat and time to go to the swimming pool or to the bar and so on. I can say an anecdote. I already told you that at the very beginning there were two main groups, I can say, Leopoldo's and mine. When somebody said when we were in Huastepec, that if you wanted to look for a member of Leopoldo's group, you would have to look close to the swimming pool. But if you want to look for somebody in my group, you had to look for close to the bar, no? And I mean, that meant that they knew that the youngsters were there and they accepted things very well. There was time to chat along in the bar or in the swimming pool, it didn't matter, no? And also, it was a coincidence. I mean, we didn't have any role in it, but that statistical physics was a growing field, no? And we profited from that. And then, I mean, we also try to keep this balance between foreign and national speakers. At some point, we opened the meeting to anybody that would register, but two things happened. Many, mostly Canadian and American physicists wanted to come because it was a wonderful break in the middle of the winter. So they would cope the whole meeting. No, so we didn't announce anymore the meeting in the US. We only invited, the only people who got invitation were those that we chosen. And the others, well, once in a while we had a sort of freelance coming to us, but it was only announced here in Mexico. And that helped to keep the right proportion. And also that we didn't let the meeting to grow more than, well, at the beginning it was just less than 50 people, around 50 people. Then it grew to about 100. I think it has, at some point, it's going to more than 100, and I think that's about the most that should be. But also, I mean, at some point, Huastepec wasn't good enough, and we looked for other venues like Cocoyoc, like Cuernavaca, and later Tasco. Luis, do you have any idea of why this happened? Why was this delocalized from Huastepec?
Yes, Fernando, at that time, I remember very well, we decided to change to Cocoyoc. That was a significant, more expensive resort than Huastepec. As I remember, the main reason for having the winter meetings moved to Huastepec, from Huastepec to Cocoyoc, was the poor quality of the restaurant at Huastepec. That was, I think, the most important point. And at this moment, it was very important concern for us as organizers committee of the winter meetings to change what we had to do because of the poor quality of the food at Cocoyoc. Unfortunately, we did it. But let me ask, before ending this conversation, would you like to add something, to add anything you want?
Yes, thank you, Luis. Well, I will show you a last photograph. This is from the meeting in 1976. Here we have, it had already changed a little bit. Some of the younger students were not as young anymore. No? Here we have Manuel Berrondo, Leopoldo Garcia Colin. This is Ken Wilson, just before he got the Nobel Prize. This is Martin Chavez.
Martin Chavez.
Yes, and who is here?
Magdaleno
This is
Medina.
Godoy, Magdaleno Medina. Where is
Salvador
Magdaleno?
Godoy, too.
Salvador Godoy. This is John Rawlinson. This is Gustavo Chapela, who had just arrived from England, where he had done his PhD with Rawlinson, exactly, precisely, and Esteban Martin again, and this is Enrique Fernandez, and Eliezer Brown, and Ramon Peralta, and I don't know well many people around here.
Rafael Soto is there.
Rafael Soto is there, yes. And here's the other half of the picture. I am myself there. There is Barojas, there is Montfort, there is Pablo Longi, there is Jacqueline Quintana. This is Mariano. I don't know if it was the first meeting that he came to. This is Roberto Alexander. This is Bob Wilson again. No, this is Sigurd Larsen again. This is Kit Gobbins. No, we really had the opportunity to have very good people, and it's really amazing and very rewarding to see how this has lasted and has lasted. I mean, changing in people. Of course, I mean, if you see the subjects of the talks of 50 or 40 something years ago, they were very different, the topics than what you are discussing now, what we are discussing now about statistical physics. The field has changed a lot, but the spirit of the early WASTEPEC meetings is still thriving, and I hope that somebody will be able to celebrate the 100th meeting, even if I won't be there. Thank you very much.
Well, I remember the relation established by several of us with international people, researchers connected with the statistical mechanics, as the case of Francisco Ramos, who contacted Ben Widom at one of the winter meetings. And this was an unexpected feature gave to give an additional value to the winter meetings. Well, thank you, Fernando, for giving us this important legacy to all of us.
Excuse me, probably I would like to abuse a little bit and say a little bit more, Luis, if you don't mind. No, I will share the.
Oh, it's okay for me.
Yeah, there are two points I would like to say. I'm sharing again the movie. One is just to show you very fast, as the credits in a movie, no, let me see where is it. I'm opening it, but I don't see it. Here it is. Yes, this is a movie in Word. These are the names of something like 70 or 100 first speakers, but you will recognize very big names there because we haven't been able to mention all of them, no? And it's like the credit is at the end of a movie that goes very fast, no? I won't say anything, but you can see the names. They are changing. Statistical physics was changing, and our invited speakers were changing, no? And there are many. I want to say that it was thanks to Esteban Martin and Mariano Lopez de Aro who helped us that were able to make such a long list of credits. No, he's 78, but that was. And the other is something that Mariano was particularly interested in, let's see how I move this thing. Here it is. That for many times from the 10th meeting on, we had many meetings where proceedings were kept and published. Now you see, all these are memoirs, proceedings of this meeting. Unfortunately, not all of them, they could not be continued, but in the last was one of the 26th meeting that María Eugenia Costas, Luis Vicente, and Rafael Barrio published the proceedings of this meeting. And so it was also a good thing that helped to enhance the impact of the meeting. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you for you, Fernando. You gave us an important legacy. And thank you to the organizers. Thank you for the conversation today. And thanks, of course, to the people who listened to us today. Thank you very much.
So we are open for questions. If you want to ask something, please write it on the chat. And I will read it for Luis or Fernando. So you could use the format for Luis, for Fernando, and then the question, please.
Could be done just by word, or we have to write it?
Well, you can break the rules, Victor. Go ahead. It's fine. You can just put your microphone and talk. Very, very fine.
I will break the rules, Eugenia.
Okay, but Victor already did, so let him.
No. I was just asking if we could be done by word. No,
Okay, fine. It's just that it was, I thought people were going to fight for having a word, and then I was going to give turns, but yeah, okay, good.
I wanted to add a few things to what already Luis and Fernando said. I remember the times at Huaxtepec where we had the cabins, and in those cabins we could share. It was 6 people sleeping in them, and in fact it was the 76th meeting. It was the first time I attended the winter meeting, and I met wonderful people, Magdaleno among them, and also other people that I already knew, Marcelo, Esteban, etc. But the other thing that I wanted to say is that it was a good opportunity for youngsters to have their first go at the international meeting with a cozy atmosphere behind them. That was a friendly atmosphere in which you could talk, say whatever you wanted to say, and be listened to by very prominent scientists in a secluded atmosphere. I mean, Huaxtepec, apart from the bar and the swimming pool, there was nothing else to do but to talk about physics, and that was very good. And I think that that's a good recollection of what I have to say. And I've been in many of the meetings. I had the pleasure to organize the 15th and many others up to the 24th, I think. And so I feel this is my meeting. So I'm pleased that you made this recollection, and I'm sure that the recording will last for the next 50 years. So I probably won't be there either when it's the 100th meeting. Thank you.
Okay, Eugenia, if I might also add,
Sure.
I had planned in my talk to give some words also about the meeting, but probably this is best the time and not use my time in my talk. And I would like to share a picture with you. Can I do it? I can
Of course.
now.
Leo, could you please allow Victor to share?
And he can share. There is no
I
problem.
can share. So while this is happening, I would like also to say to Fernando and to Luis to remember that after Huastepec and Cocoyoc, we spent many years at the Jacarandas Hotel, which I remember dearly because it was the time that I used to go to all the conferences. And it was a great time. The Jacarandas Hotel was a great place. And then I happened to take it when I was the organizer to Tasco. And it was also to change airs because it had been so many years and people just kind of get bored. And so I took it to this Tasco. Okay, so let me share just with you a picture of the meeting, which is the picture. Oops, I blew it. It's the picture of the conference, of this conference. You see this in black and white in the web page of this conference. This is the meeting of 1983, and this meeting was special in many respects for everybody, but for me in particular. I'm sorry to talk about myself, but this meeting was special because it was in Mexico City, and it was due to another disgrace. Now we are having this pandemic, but in 1983 we had a terrible economic crisis. I think the worst crisis that we have had, at least in my lifetime, in the 80s. And so there was no money to go to Huastepec, and so it was done in Mexico City at UNAM. This is the Vivero Alto at the National University. And you can see also, again, a lot of people. Garcia Colin is over here. And I think these are the singers. You can help me. I can see Carmen Barea, Robledo over here, Piña. I think this is Rosa Maria Velasco, Maru Costas, Ana Laura Benavides. I'm not so sure Magdaleno is here. I think this is Magdaleno, but I'm not so sure. And this is Rolando Castillo, Marcelo Lozada, again in the very middle. I mean, a lot of them. And this is me. You know, for me, this is a very important conference because it was my first winter meeting, but also it was my first conference ever. I had never been to another conference in my life. And this was the first one, and it was because it was in Mexico City. And so I could attend, and it was great to me. And so I'd like to end this intervention to say that here is Fernando del Rio. And I'd like to express that our community, scientific in Mexico and in statistical physics, has really grown and getting old, of course. But I think more that the Americans say like come of age or something like that. That is not just to get age, but also get experience and to be a greater community. And you see, I like to tell people that, of course, Fernando right now is a towering figure in our statistical physics community in Mexico. But you see, in 1983, Fernando was already a towering figure. The other one was Garcia Colin, who is over here. But I hope that Fernando forgives me the indiscretion. Fernando was just 42 years old. So you can imagine the age of the rest. You know, at 42, someone was a towering figure in 1983. He was the man with experience, and we all look at them as the great man, you know, as he is now, of course, and he's been since then. And so for me, this is very interesting to see. You know, you can imagine the age of almost everybody over here. Here is our late Germinal Cocho. We miss him as many other people in the picture, of course. That's all what I wanted to say. And sorry for my long intervention.
No, thank you. Thank you very much, Victor. We still have like 2 minutes for questions. If someone else wants to intervene, we will be happy.
Magdaleno wants to.
Magdaleno and Rolando.
And Rolando.
Yeah, but
Okay.
okay. Magdaleno, go ahead, please.
Thank you, Eugenia, and thank you, everyone. It's a great pleasure to see all of you, and to also to make these memories and remembrances. I just wanted to say one thing. With the starting of the winter meeting, it also started the shaping of a community, and that is an intangible, which is actually very tangible for many of us. Because, for example, for me, I was always outside the nucleus of the founders, which was UNAM and UAM. to some extent, I think that I should belong to UAM because of when I came back to Mexico, I should be there, but I was in the Simba staff. And then I went to San Luis Potosí. But the very first thing that I want to say is that a community, a healthy and great community starts with great founders. And these people who founded it, and you have already mentioned that, of course, is like Victor said, we can identify Fernando as one of our founding fathers, together with others at the beginning. The first thing that we learned that they taught us is how to be a gentleman in the best sense of the word, how to honor the values of truth, of honesty, of interest for the community. That was something that was learned by all of us in those meetings. That was the framework for great friendships. I mean, I consider all of the ones that are here, many others who are not, great friends because we share many experiences, and some of them great, so others were hard. But at the same time, I think that Mariano was mentioning the 80s. Yes, the 80s was a time for that proved us our resilience, our love for our country, our love for physics, and so on. And we could inundate with anecdotes of how we survived that decade. I only want to say that my first encounter with the winter meeting was in '75, that I was there with Murat Alexanian, who was my master's thesis advisor, and with Don McQuarrie, who that was the occasion that I met him, and after that I started my PhD with him. So in my trajectory, the winter meeting was really transcendental. And then when I came back as a young scientist, I found, let's say, I don't know the word, but let's say like the house that won my stay in Mexico. At the beginning, it was great because there were 2 years of lots of money. 83 was the last one. No, 83, as Mariano said, there was no money. Okay, and then I became one of the organizers in 84. So we had to tell the foreigners, you pay yourself everything. And they did it gladly, all of them. And that was great because the meeting was really a great meeting by those days. So anyway, just wanted to thank the founders and also to thank my colleagues of my generation who made my life really, how to say, much more pleasant, both in terms of science and also in terms of friendship. And the new generation, you guys are, these generations are putting in your hands these values, and those are the ones that you guys are practicing. We shouldn't keep all the time being in you guys have to see the future. But pausing today to look at the past honors you, and it's good to honor these people, like in particular Fernando. I always say he's the leading conscience of our community, and he's the founder. He set the rules, not only scientific rules, those are great, okay, but also the ethical and these other type of rules that distinguish this community. So I'm very proud to be part of this community. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Magdaleno. Rolando, please.
I would like to thank to our founding fathers, particularly to Fernando, because something we said, but we have to stress it. They formed a community. That is the important thing. We have a community. And this is probably for me the most important thing. We are a community. In many places we have shown that. And probably the second thing I would like to remember is because of Victor, when we moved to Jacarandas, I was the organizer. These two in 1999 and 2000, we moved to Jacarandas, and the reason was very simple. Jacarandas gave us a credit to pay, and the other place didn't give us credit. So the problem of money all the time was very, very, very difficult. So my last comment is to thank you, our community now. I started like Victor, I was in 1983 meeting that was very difficult in many senses. But in this community in 85, I remember to meet their young singers. And by that thing, I went to his lab and I started to be an experimentalist in that time. So thank you to our founding fathers and to our community. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Rolando. I have a question for Fernando. We were told that you have pictures of all the winter meetings that have taken place. I think you said except for the first one, but do you actually have the pictures? Could this?
No, unfortunately, I don't.
You don't?
I have some. I have, I don't know, about 15 or so meetings. But then this would be a good time because, for instance, the one from 1983, I don't have the pictures. I was going to ask Victor to send me a copy of that one because mine I couldn't find. And I mean, it's a good time to say everybody to see who has pictures of what, and please send them to me, and I will make a collection, an album that can be posted, and I don't know, in Google site or someplace, so that everybody can have access to. No?
Great. This is a very good invitation for the community.
Yeah, I have like 20.
Oh, okay. So Rolando, send me please a copy of the 20.
Yes. As far as I go back to my institute, I will take a photograph for you.
Excellent, please. No?
Very good. So we're going to move on. So I don't know if you can allow me to share my screen. Leo, please.
Yes, you can.
Hold on. Hold on. So can you see my presentation?
Yes.
Yes, we can see your presentation.
So it is very brief. So it is an honor for the organizers of the 50th edition of the winter meeting to thank all the people that helped to found this meeting, that it has now become a tradition. We owe to all of you many thanks. We would like to acknowledge in particular 7 people that, on top of having an outstanding role on the establishment of the meeting, had a brilliant trajectory on statistical physics that have had an enormous impact on the StatMech community in Mexico, because they have formed a lot of students, a lot of people. So I hope that nobody will get offended. We try to think as best as possible who deserve this small recognition. And of course, the first one is Fernando del Rio. We will send you, this is like a silver coin, and 925 silver coin with your name on it, Fernando.
Oh,
Fernando del Rio Asa.
Excellent.
And on the here you have the entropy equation, January 2022 as a souvenir of this day. And on the other side, there is a picture of Boltzmann and the legend 50th winter meeting on statistical physics. So we ask you to please write to the Gmail of the organization to give us your postal address, so we can send you physically this little present in the name of all the community, okay?
Excellent, thank you very much.
Then we have Magdaleno Medina Noyola. So the coin is the same for everyone, of course, except for the engraved name on it. So Magdaleno, we will be very thankful if you send us the address. Luis Mier y Terán Casanueva.
Thank you.
So here are even though the coins look the
Nice.
same, the pictures are taken of your particular coin or medal. I don't know how to call it. Rosa Maria Velasco Belmont. And
Thank you very
Marcelo.
much.
Okay, I didn't know you were there. I am happy that you are here. Sorry, I had
Yes.
not seen you before. So we will thank you also, you all, if you send us your address so we can post mail these little gifts.
Yes, of course. And thank you very much to all of you.
Thank you, thank you. Marcelo Lozada Ikazu, which we already talked to from the beginning of the meeting. So I know he's there. And
I am here, yeah.
unfortunately, we were not able to reach Carmen Barea, but she was also an organizer of the meeting and a very important person in the community. She's now retired, but luckily she's alive. So we will also make her a present that we hope some of you can help us to find her postal address, so she gets a surprise by post mail. And Alberto Robledo Nieto, that I think had already joined also this session, who was also an organizer for many years and had contributed a lot to the community. So for giving us so much, we all want to say gracias, muchas gracias. And I would ask that everybody opens their audios and we would clap just to these people and to all the others that we have unintentionally forgotten or not mentioned, but have contributed to our community, okay? So thank you very much. Thank you very much, Fernando.
Thank you, Eugenia.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Fernando, I have 18 pictures of the winter meeting.
How many?
18.
Oh, excellent.
So at one point we should share them so that there's a record of the meetings.
Okay, yes. Yes, if you can scan them and send them to me, if they are duplicates, there is no problem, because it will be more difficult to keep tracking the list of which has what.
Right.
Enrique, do you want to speak and advertise the Twitter page?
Was actually doing so by the chat. So we have set a Twitter account. We have been posting some comments and some pictures, so you can track some of the action that is happening in this meeting. And if you happen to have some pictures or some information you want to share with the community, go ahead and tag us, post this information and tag us so we can have, let's say, a meeting point for all these wonderful memories. So thank you.
Okay, thank you, Enrique.